our professional lives. When we are growing up, when we were kids, we always looked up to the social feedback and social appreciation and recognition from our teachers, friends, and that still continues. So I think moving to a workplace, I think there are some very fundamental basics of what recognition is. But I would say recognition is more in terms of how does an employee or how does talent in your organization feels valued, which goes more than just their job opportunities. Because we are in a space where talent market is very challenging. Uh, High performers, are a scarcity in today's situation, and especially in the world of technology and startups, with millennials coming into picture, this has become so complex. I would say an ecosystem wherein you have to continuously look forward to either initiatives or practices wherein you get people to feel valued more than just do a salary check at the end of the month. So that's what I believe. Recognition is more fundamental and more holistic. It's not a logical and I would say a tactical program run by HR organizations, but this is more fundamental and holistic approach which is tied into the culture of the organization.
Mhm. So, why do you think that a recognition culture is important for an office workplace to function well? I mean, even if with no recognition culture, a workplace could function like it always do, and with salary as an incentive. So, why is a recognition culture so important, and how does it affect the workplace productivity and motivation of employees?
Yeah, so as I already said that we all are humans, right? So the first fundamental of being human is there are certain things that we yearn as humans, and that's why I made that reference of Mother Teresa. So all of us, when we come and start, being in office, in the mornings and going out, in the evenings, I understand that for all of us, would want to do meaningful impact in our jobs. But I would say that a recognition culture is something beyond that. It's not just about job opportunities, and it's not just only about I would say a salary or a paycheck. Because employees who feel valued, employees who are recognized for the contributions that they make in the organizations, and employees who feel that they are creating an impact which is aligned to the overall business objectives or vision of the organization, goes a lot beyond than the call of duty, right? So there are different kind of employees or different kind of humans that we see. There are some people that are pretty focused in terms of their jobs. There are some people who are only incentivized or motivated, I would say, by the sales incentives or any other form of performance bonuses. But I would say that in today's knowledge economy, and considering millennials are in workplace, especially Generation Z is also coming in. There is a lot more than that. These are the people who actually want to create more impact. These are the people who want to bring about a change, right? That's why startups behave very differently than typical traditional corporate sort of environments, because you have entrepreneurs who have high risk taking ability, right? For them, it's not just about an opportunity. For them, recognition means what are you being able to create, what are you being able to impact, as a startup organization or as an entrepreneur. So I would say that recognition culture is more around kind of impact that you can create. And I see a very clear shift in terms of our understanding of what recognition is. And I personally feel that we as humans have also gone through an evolution in terms of what is our understanding of recognition. And some people may still call it a Maslow's hierarchy as well. But if I see in the recent times, people have started moving to a self-recognition sort of mode, right? And that's why the entire startup ecosystem is a great case study towards that. I used to work in a corporate setup or an MNC, right? That used to be the recognition for me. But now, if I am moving to a setup which is relatively small, which is transformational, right, wherein I am doing things for myself, I'm trying to recognize my own talent, my own capabilities, in turn, being able to create something for the entire world. So for me, recognition culture has also moved, amongst organization and the kind of industries that we are working in.
So, coming to a topic, so how do you think an organization can create a culture that goes beyond the hierarchical level of an office?
Yeah. So, again, we have to look at it very, very holistically, right? We should not constrain these within the walls of the office, right? If an employee feels valued, right, he or she will go out of the way beyond the job description, beyond the KRAs of the role, and create a lasting term impact, not only on the organization, but also, let's say, customers or partners of the organization. And there are several, I would say, methods or initiatives, for doing that. And I will not talk about those typical, regular, mundane initiatives, around monetary gifts, etc. But one of the fundamental, and one of the most important aspect that I have seen could be wherein people go outside the organization, represent the organization at a stage wherein they are making meaningful impacts. For example, you're building technology. You're building technologies, which are changing every single day. You have talented folks, helping you manage that scale. There is a developer conference which is happening somewhere outside, right? And best of the best technologies are going to be part of that. I would say, if you pick up one of your guy, who really feels valued, yeah, and who is also good talent according to you, if you make this guy go outside the organization with a fundamental, I would say, expectation that he will represent your organization in that developer conference. You are providing him an opportunity to represent the organization, and you're also providing him the opportunity to go and change the world, right? Because you are putting him in a situation where you're saying that, hey, just go out and create whatever change you can. While there are 2,000 developers across the world, instead of your CTO going and representing because it's been there and that, you are actually giving someone an opportunity to create an impact outside the organization. So that's why there is a very recent splurge in terms of people appreciating the importance and value of community conversations, community impacts. I wouldn't call that there is a lot of work going around in CSR, but the people have started realizing that when you involve yourself in something which is beyond work, and that's why it goes beyond office hierarchy. We are creating a change at a more fundamental level. Let's say you're a technology startup and you're bringing about a change to your customers. Can you also send this guy outside, let's say, to the rural parts of India and give them an opportunity to create change for rural livelihoods? That is where this guy will be able to kind of align with your organization's mission much more, holistically, because you are providing an opportunity where they're creating impact outside the office hierarchies and walls as
well. Right. So, do you think a culture like this would allow employee to propel and accept, culture of excellence?
So I'm not sure about the word excellence, because I fundamentally believe that excellence is very, very subjective and it's more individualistic. I haven't seen a very, very universal sort of definition or benchmark around excellence. So for me, it's more like a ghost, say trade, right? And it's more of a style. It's more of a style. But what I can really comment is, people who really feel valued and who are really recognized for what they bring on the table, they actually go a long way. Right now, you may call it, retention, you may call it engagement, you may call it, highest level of productivity. Because someone who feels valued at a fundamental and a holistic level goes a lot beyond, right? Because then the boundaries are very, very, I would say, thin in that case, because the focus is not only on doing the routine things, the focus is more on how do I do things, or how do we do things which goes beyond. So I wouldn't say that a recognized employer recognition culture will fuel excellence. What I fundamentally feel is that this definitely fuels meaningful impact and change.
So there was one question which came up a lot when I was looking for questions to ask you, and that was like, how do you motivate team leaders and managers in an organization to carry forward the RMR program?
Sure. So first and foremost, with due respect, to everyone, I feel there's a fallacy in the question. I personally feel that you can't motivate anyone, right? I feel that you can inspire people, you can inspire managers, you can inspire employees and leaders. Motivation is more intrinsic, I would say. So there are still two ways of looking at it. One is how do we inspire people, or inspire managers to be able to create a recognition culture, right? So there are certain steps, or there are certain things which I personally believe in. First and foremost is it starts at the top. And when I say it starts with the top, that does not only mean that it starts with the CEO or the founder, right? But it certainly starts there, because if you have people who are managing moments of responsibility, who are managing teams, who are managing accountability and performance of an organization, or let's say a business unit, employees look up to them, right? And it's very important for them to walk the talk, right? And I've worked with a lot of promoters and founders, and that's one fundamental thing which actually makes or breaks, right? So your leaders or your managers needs to be able to walk the talk. So if there is any program that we have created, or any initiative that we have created, if there is a sponsorship from someone who's going to own it, that means you're more than 90% sure in terms of the success, because people who are going to be owning, they are the ones who actually walk the talk. So I feel fundamentally this is one of the most important aspect of creating that culture. Second, I would say is more from a people function, because majority of the times, and in a lot of organizations, we feel that this is a core KRA for human resource departments. We are totally wrong. We do not own this. We cannot own this, and we should not own this. A true blue recognition culture means that HR works with the organization. HR works with leaders and managers to create a recognition culture. So you are helping leaders and managers to implement a recognition culture, but you are not doing on behalf of them. If you are doing on behalf of them, then you will never ever be able to create that culture. You are there to be able to help them manage and help them create that culture, right? So you should try and be specific, as a program or as an initiative. You should also make it formal and informal, right? And you should also ensure that whatever programs and practices that you are conceptualizing, are being owned by people. So these are 3 or 4 fundamental basics, I would say, helps create a recognition culture. But again, there is no one single tablet, because every organization is different. And the most significant, I would say, aspect here is how relevant is the recognition program. It cannot be a best practice comparison, or let's say a pickup from some other organization and then implemented in your organization. So we have to be totally relevant and contextual to our culture, and then go forward and do these 4 or 5 basics which will help you to create the culture inside the organization.
Sure. So we have a question from Nanditesh, and he says that, can you please tell me how can we motivate team in a new era style? Oh, this is a good question. So I think this is for motivating the millennials.
Okay. So I would say that it's not only about millennials, because I think there is another generation which is coming after millennials. So millennials is a thing of the past. Now we have Generation Z, right? Now these are the people who are born in a very different era. These are folks who are born in an era of technology. They have access to information. They are born in pretty secure and stable environments, unlike the baby boomers, right? So these are very different generations altogether. But fundamentally, I would say that the need for recognition still remains the same. Although different generations have been through workplace journeys, the need for recognition is still the same. So, for example, things which matters to my dad, they still matter to me. Let's say social recognition is one thing which still matters. If I've done a great job, right, and if there is a personal touch to that, even the manager does it or a CEO does it, it still makes me feel valued. So the fundamental need for recognition has not changed, although the generations have changed. So I would say that if you have to look at motivating or inspiring this generation of millennial and Generation Z, you should still go back to the drawing board and identify those need for recognition. Now there may be some bit of change and some bit of evolution in that need for change, need for recognition. I would say, for example, taking higher risks. Now there are some people who take higher risks for higher rewards and higher returns, right? And that's why they go and become an entrepreneur. For them, recognition is more about the kind of change that they make, right? So the need for recognition is still fundamental across generations, but in some areas they have evolved. And I think if we can still identify those needs, they can be applied to any generation and every generation, and then customized to our own workplace.
I want to ask you, like, how is recognition and how is the whole system different when it comes to a large organization and that into a small startup? So how do they differ and what difference does it make?
Yeah, so there are actually a lot of differences between a large corporate, traditional multinational organization and small startups. And one of the most significant difference that I can share is reliance on processes. A traditional corporate setups rely too much on processes and governance, right? There are significant hierarchies being created. Everything is being driven through processes. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but fundamentally, I believe the processes are there to enable something. The biggest problem or the biggest issue that I've seen with big corporates and MNCs is processes gets converted into something which becomes a bottleneck or a blockage. If you are not being able to use processes to enable something, I think we are going the wrong way. So that's one fundamental difference, I would say, is too much of a reliance on processes, systems, and governances between startups and I would say corporate setups in terms of building this recognition. Second, I would say is startups are I would say more touch based, right? And it also depends in terms of what is the size and scale of the startup, right? And if you are a 20-member team, the founder works with you, the CEO works with you, and everyone is a very close knit bonded team. When 20 becomes 100, then you still work with founders and co-founders, right? But distance starts creeping in. Then you move to a 500 or 1,000. So I would say that that's one of the most significant challenge for a startup as well, because when you are scaling up, how do you scale up? How do you take care of the distance between an employee and a co-founder? And the success depends on how fast and how well are you being able to empower your managers and your people. If you're being able to empower your managers and your employees, they will be able to create that recognition culture for you. So that's the second thing. Startups are more touch based. Third, significant difference I would say is the agility, right? And in organizations, recognition culture is not something which is perfect, right? But some organizations create programs like they are perfect, and they've always been there. And then there are processes created on top of it, and it's been just there, right? It's a very, very mundane way of looking at recognition culture versus startups, wherein startups are very, very fast. Systems are very agile, right? So in that case, you need to be continuously innovating. You need to be continuously reevaluating your programs, and that's why we see a lot of this happening in startups, because startups by nature, are agile. They're fast paced. They evaluate, reevaluate, and iterate things very, very fast, which is a very, very significant difference when you go to a traditional organization, right? And recognition cultures can never be perfect. They, these needs to be evaluated, reevaluated, and evolved over a long period of time. So in my view, these are the three most significant differences.
So, lastly, we'd like to know more engaged. Like, how does more engage maintain its culture, and how does it keep its employees motivated and productive?
So more engage is a very, very interesting journey, I would say. I joined about 5 months back. We started in 2014. We were close to about 70 to 80 employees about 8 to 9 months back, and 2 days back we crossed 200 plus. So we are in a very, very interesting and transformation journey. Why I call it interesting and transformational is we are scaling up, and we are scaling up very, very fast. Right? We suddenly move from 80, 90 to almost 200 plus, and we are still growing. With growth in numbers and scale, there comes a lot of challenges, a lot of opportunities as well, because you are bringing in talent which is very diverse, from different backgrounds, I would say different nationalities in our case as well, because we are a global organization, right? So scale presents a lot of interesting opportunities and challenges, and that's where it becomes very, very interesting from a culture standpoint, because culture is something which cannot change over and over again. Culture is the unique identity. So what we did is, we got together, we involved all our employees and leaders in creating the unique identity of the organization, and we are calling it core values. For us, our core values are something which define who we are. It articulates what we want to be. And we have been able to identify those core values. We are in the middle of implementation as we speak. So the idea is to first identify and define this is what More Engage is. Once you have done that, you have to go across the organization, involve employees, communicate to them, talk to them, right? Make them accountable, get leaders to walk the talk, right? So there's a complete change management, which we also need to go through, while we are ensuring that everyone is on the same page. And while we do that, this is a very, very interesting case study, for a cultural transformation. And one of the very significant initiative that we will be looking at is using recognition as a tool to fuel that culture transformation. Because we have created core values, and these are the behaviors that we would want to appreciate and recognize. So we have to create initiatives, around this, so that we can go to managers, go to leaders, get them to walk the talk on those behaviors. And there are a lot of recognition practices which we need to implement as well. For example, our performance management system needs to talk about these behaviors, right? And when I talk about performance management system, that means you are trying to recognize and reward people based on those behaviors. So what we are trying to do at More Engage is we are trying to use different initiatives for creating a cultural transformation. And recognition is going to be one important one. We do have certain programs right now, but we have to reevaluate and recreate some of the other programs which will help make this value implementation exercise successful.
All right. So we are open for questions now. So if you would like to ask any questions, I also remember there was an interesting question up there. So Alok asks that what is the way if a manager does not value your work because of his agenda, and agenda being his own relative, and he wants to highlight him in all possible ways, suppressing others. So this is a unique situation.
Okay. Yeah. So I look at it in two ways. Okay. So one is certainly a process and governance way to look at this. Second one is more from a development perspective. So I think if there is a team member in a particular team and there are relatives, so I would say that there is a need to actually look at that from a process and governance perspective, right? Because there are different dynamics which comes into play. I'm not saying that this is always the case, but this may be the case because I don't have the complete context as well. But in certain situations where people have personal, I would say, relationships, right? So there is a certain dynamics which comes into play. Now, due to that dynamics, things may get perceived a little differently, or things may get actually being done a little differently. So for the organization, it becomes very, very important that you have certain processes and you have certain systems created so that you can identify and spot those dynamics which makes the organization uncomfortable, which makes even employees or let's say teams uncomfortable. So that's my first bet on this. Second, I would say, I would strongly recommend is that we need to look at it from a development perspective, right? I consider this as lack of fairness in decision making and managers, and right. So we need to be able to create a system, in a way that managers who understand their accountability, their responsibilities. We give them ownership of what do they need to do as managers in terms of fairness and integrity. Let's say fairness and integrity is are the core values of the organization. So we need to discuss with them. We need to make them understand in terms of how does it translate in actions. The third thing I would say is have constant feedback with the manager. The gentleman who asked this question. If there are feedback platforms in the organization, if you are comfortable, having a conversation, one-on-one conversation, you should definitely share feedback. But I don't have the context, so I'm not very sure what is the sensitivity level. But do involve people, who act as coach and who are being able to provide feedback to that individual and put it across. Because many of the times, what I've realized is, we assume certain things, we perceive certain things, in reality they turn out to be something else.
Yes.
Right. So I would say that these are the 2 or 3 things that we should try our hands out. And I'm sure that anyone who's a good manager, anyone who takes accountability of his or her role would definitely understand this feedback or will try to work on this.
All right. So next question we have from Pulkit, who asks that don't you think millennials tend to be inclined more towards the rewards than towards recognition?
So I would like to rephrase this question a little bit. I would say that rewards are a form of recognition. It's actually not too different, right? And recognition again, there are different shapes and forms of recognition. Sometimes we have monetary recognitions, which could be in terms of incentives, which could be in terms of, let's say, stock options, which could be in terms of, I would say, bonuses. And then there are these non-monetary benefits, for example, gift cards, vouchers, sending someone on an experience trip. And then there are some recognitions which goes a lot beyond monetary and non-monetary, but that's still could be considered non-monetary, but they are more holistic and fundamental, right? For example, you provide them an opportunity which they remember for a long time. Right. So what I mean is, let's say, social contextual recognition. Right? There is someone in your organization who's been there for a great amount of time. And I'm not advocating recognition based on tenure. But what I say is someone who's been there for a good amount of time, have created a lot of impact, have built a lot of changes in the organization. And when you give an example of this particular individual to the entire organization, one is there is a social recognition, and all of us do need and want social recognition. What it also helps us to do is helps us to influence others towards that particular behavior, right? And then you will be in a much better position to actually model certain behaviors, because if you are looking at this particular individual as an example, and that is a behavior that you would like to kind of promote. So I would say that there are different mechanisms, or there are different forms of recognition, but rewards are not recognition. But having said that, I've already spoken about how it is different for previous generations and millennials and Generation Z. The need for recognition is still the same. So the shape and form in which we look forward to recognition has changed. In previous times, recognition was more personal, right? You might say that because of technology, because of Facebook, LinkedIn, Insta, that recognition pattern has changed. So yeah, there is definitely a change in the shape or form, but the need always remains there.
So what do you think works better? An AI tool that helps you create an engagement among the employees, or a personal touch with the employees?
So I know that there's a lot of hysteria around this particular question that you have asked me, which is AI and personal touch. And I've been there and seen a lot of tools, a lot of platforms, and I've built a couple of them myself as well, right? The fundamental problem, especially with a lot of HR professionals, is we feel that this is a new thing, this is a cool thing, which has just come out. So let's try and use this and create a recognition culture. And I can guarantee that no AI tool can actually build a recognition culture. Technology is just an enabler. It is just an enabler. Whether you're talking about any big HRMS, whether you talk about Xoxoday, you talk about any AI tool, they are just there enable your philosophy. They're just there enable your speed of implementation. They are being there to help you collate and collect that data or a need. But AI doesn't build culture, or doesn't build engagement, or doesn't build recognition. What they do is they help you identify, they help you track, they help you measure, right? So I still feel that in order to be able to create that, you definitely require a lot of personal touch. You also require technology to be able to identify where you need to provide a personal touch. But above all, what you need is a fundamental human philosophy, or a people philosophy of how do you want to create your culture, and then implement it through personal touch and AI.
So we have a question from Ruma, who says that being a startup with 52 strength, how can we use the recognition culture of our office for employee betterment?
So I think Ruma can actually use recognition to a great effect, right? And I did spoke about some of the fundamental basics. And for her organization, it's a 52-member organization, right? So there are some of the fundamental basics that Ruma can actually look at. The first one, I strongly advise is create a recognition framework. Create a framework, in terms of where does she feel that recognition needs to be applied. So does she want to recognize new employees? Does she want to recognize I would say high performers, or does she want to recognize high potentials? So first, let us create a fundamental recognition framework of what is the audience pool and which pool, right? Second one is in terms of the objective of the entire program, right? Do we want to create a culture? Do we want to just reward people better? Do we want to create best experiences? So objective needs to be identified very clearly. So when you have the objective, it becomes very, very clear in terms of what are the steps that you need to take. So you can go all out in terms of more personalization. That's my recommendation to Ruma because the size is small. So you should go for more personalization and bring more personal touch into the recognition program. Second thing I would say is be more specific and relevant. Be more timely in terms of your recognitions, and you can do a lot of small things for your 52-member organization. For example, just standing up and saying thank you, on a particular day every week for the organization, makes a lot of sense. And it also charge the entire energy of the organization. Creates a lot of positive vibes in the organization. So I would recommend to Rupa that she does not require much of investment in terms of best in class tools around identifying of recognition need, but definitely look at some of these low cost, high impact items for a 52-member organization.
Right. I hope Roma that clears your answer. So then those are the questions that we have right now. So
I think Pulkit,
Pulkit is trying
or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe Pulkit, I'll forward your question to Mr. Jitendra and he'll probably answer it for you. But for now, thanks a lot for being a part of this and thank you for taking some time for us.
Thank you for inviting me here, sure.
And thanks a lot for attending this webinar and I'll be sending you the recording of the webinar soon. Thank you.